Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to each of the witnesses for coming here this morning to testify. A little over a year ago, the Subcommittee on Science and Space, which I chair, held the first congressional hearing on artificial intelligence. And then, as now, we heard testimony about the extraordinary transformative process that we are engaged in right now and how AI in time can be expected to touch virtually every area of human endeavor. And indeed that this transformation may be of comparable import to the transformation we engaged in a prior era in the industrial age. Anytime we're seeing dramatic transformations in our economy, in our workforce, in how we interact with each other, that poses the risk of dislocations, but it also poses policy and government and regulatory challenges for how to interact with the new terrain. In your judgment, what are the biggest barriers right now to developing and expanding AI and its positive impacts on our society and our economy?
I'll head off and others join. So I think one of the biggest barriers is a lack of understanding about what AI is, what the actual technology is, and then what it does, and what the, what both the intended and unintended consequences are. And so I think, this hearing, the legislation that Senator Schatz is working on, I think trying to increase our collective understanding is critical, it's fundamental. I think there are a number of specific policy issues that would be helpful in terms of eliminating barriers. So, one of those is AI is all about data, and so good data policy in various ways I think is very important. I think investing in research, which we've talked about already, investing both in government research and incentivizing private sector research is very important. And then I think, thinking about jobs and workforce development, both the jobs today, but what will happen tomorrow, and rethinking our educational system and our training and reskilling programs is vitally important. So those are the three specific areas, but I think a greater understanding needs to be part of all of those discussions.
So I agree with skills is very important, especially much of this technology is new, and we need people that can basically rapidly be credentialed in how to deploy it. But when we look at the biggest opportunities for AI, it's really in some of the regulated industries. And so I think that's where we hit up on challenges, because there's two challenges. One, regulators aren't necessarily prepared with how to deal with this. And two, they don't necessarily have the skill set or capabilities internally within the regulatory system to handle it. And so I think that's something we need to be very focused on, is asking questions.
So what agencies and industries in particular?
So for financial regulation, for example, education as another example, especially when we're talking about using AI in primary education, there's a lot of questions about privacy that get raised. In the financial system, it's the questions of, do we have regulators who basically understand the technology and will do things more than just ask, can I see the algorithm, but be able to say, can I look at outcomes? Can I actually measure outcomes? And then ask questions about, okay, is this fair? Is this different than what we have now? Is this moving in the right direction? And also have some of that regulatory flexibility. So we need kind of, fewer cops and more sandboxes.
So one area that has generated fears and concern is general AI. And scientists and innovators ranging from Stephen Hawking to Bill Gates to Elon Musk have raised concern. Stephen Hawking stated, quote, "Once humans develop artificial intelligence, it would take off on its own and redesign itself at an ever-increasing rate. Humans who are limited by slow biological evolution couldn't compete and would be superseded." Elon Musk has referred to it as, quote, "summoning the demon." How concerned should we be about the prospect of general AI? Or to ask the question differently, in a nod to Terminator, when does Skynet go online?
Hopefully never.
Right answer.
I think there's a lot of debate within the technical community about how likely these sorts of scenarios might be. I think virtually everyone agrees that it would be far in the future. Generally, the people who are most involved in AI research and development tend to be the most skeptical about the Skynet or existential risk type of scenarios. In any case, the sorts of risks and concerns that exist now about AI are really baby versions of the ones that we would face with a more sophisticated general AI. And so the tactics, the policies that make sense now to deal with the issues we face now are the same ones we would use to warm up for a general AI future if it comes. And so from a policy choice standpoint, the possibility of distant general AI seems less important to me.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think if you ask practitioners in the field when they would envision the possibility of that, I think everybody would say 20-plus years out. And whenever scientists say 20-plus years out is our code word for saying we just don't know, right? We're nowhere near close to be able to do that. So I do think that while it's an area of very important study, and there are many universities who are now creating a rate of monitoring of what is the progress in AI and the implications that it would have if we eventually reach general artificial intelligence, I do think it would be a mistake to guide our policy decisions at present based on this sort of like long-term hypothetical that we don't even have, even as practitioners, even a credible path to get there.
Thank you.